My name's Lan. That's my picture. I run a venture fund called Basis Set Ventures. We are a $140 million funds focusing on enterprise AI companies. So we're investing anything that automates workflows, from anything you have in the office to manufacturing automation to farming automation, basically any kind of automation in different work settings. That's what we invest in. We do seed and Series A stage investments, and we typically write check sizes between $1 to $3 million. I was at Dropbox. I ran M&A at Dropbox before this. I was at McKinsey before Dropbox, and I did a PhD and a startup before that. So that's my brief background. I'll pass it on to Alex.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Liang, partner at Orida Ventures. We are an early stage VC fund investing in seed stage and A round. Check size goes from $500,000 to about $5 million. So we've been around for over 3 years. Pretty much finished the investment in Fund 1, and we're starting investment in Fund 2. Our focus is more in the technology-driven companies, including artificial intelligence, cloud computing, big data, IoT. So myself, before this, I was at venture partner at a VC fund, PE fund in China called Safe Partners. And also I did some startup back in China before I joined the VC industry. So that's kind of about my fund and myself. And well, really appreciate that you guys are still here. It's Sunday afternoon, so late, and I'm surprised to see you are still here. But anyway, thank you.
Hi.
We just do the intro.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My Uber driver got lost. Okay. Anyhow, thanks for bearing with us, and happy to have our panelists go ahead and introduce themselves so you know what we're going to be covering today. My name is Rebecca Fannin, and I'm the founder and editor of Silicon Dragon, and I also wrote the book Silicon Dragon, which was all about China's internet wave. And I'm still following the story, which continues to be very, very interesting and hard to keep up with. So we're going to be talking today about the future of tech. And we have on stage two panelists who are very much front and center on what's happening because they're both early stage investors, and they're investing in AI, big data, IoT. So I'd like to hear from each one of them. What do you think is the hottest technology going forward? Is it AI? Because I just keep hearing about AI over and over again. So is it AI or is it something else?
Well, AI is still pretty hot now, but not as hot as blockchain, I guess. The last session, it's
that's
where the money is going. But I think AI is very important. The way we define AI is mainly automating any kind of workflow, which I think is a big revolution because in certain area like farming and manufacturing, we don't have enough people to do the work. Especially in farming in California, there's a huge amount of labor shortage. So we're investing things like farming robots, which can help people do the job, and especially in a situation where there's not enough people. It's critical to produce the food that we need to eat. Similarly, in factories, there's not enough workers to manufacture the parts that we need to use every day. So I think it's very much important, very essential. And I think, it is hot and it is essential. It's so super important. We do invest in a little bit blockchain, but AI is still, the more fundamental part that we invest in.
Okay, so what percentage of your fund is invested in AI?
Majority of it. We have 3 blockchain companies so far. We're very selective in terms of which company we invest in blockchain. There's one just announced called Oasis Labs. Pretty much all the major funds Polychain and A16Z crypto, they're investing in that. We're a small stakeholder in that. But we do smaller investments in blockchain. Most are still in AI.
But AI continues to be the majority of your investments.
Yes, it will continue to be,
It will continue to be.
yes.
Okay. And Alex, from your viewpoint of your fund,
Our fund is again focusing in AI. We probably do 70% of our investment in the AI space. And in general, AI has been around for a while. It's everybody pretty much knows about it. But I think it's no longer just a few engineers with the algorithm. Again, people talking about the data set, the algorithm, and the application, the use case. And so from our perspective, we look into AI, we kind of separate into two parts. One is we call the building blocks. Some basic technologies. If you look into the AI, it's very broad space. And the basic building blocks can be small things. Sometimes it can be memory. Sometimes it can be edge computing chips. Sometimes it can be just the acceleration on the cloud computing. So there are many small building blocks, but those are the technology opportunities. I think there's still a lot of opportunities out there. And the second way of looking at the AI is more application or use case driven, in which case the team or the opportunity, you have to understand the vertical segment, your customers, the use case, and application driven, how do you define the product and use case, and then involve the AI technology and perhaps other technologies to make a full solution and product work. So on both directions, I still see there are a lot of opportunities that are on the market. And other than AI, I definitely agree, blockchain has been extremely hot, and we are looking into blockchain and evaluating some investment opportunities. And the third, I think technology is not the focus of our fund, but sometimes we co-invest with other people, is on the healthcare, especially with the genomic technologies and on the diagnosis side and also cancer treatment side. There are a lot of new development. And especially with the genomic technology available, there's sequencing, and then again, it's all data. And we see a lot of new data scientists or AI technologies applies to the healthcare space in drug development, in cancer, early cancer diagnosis, and also treatment. So that I would say those are also big opportunities in the future technology development.
okay. I've been hearing a lot about the AI innovation race between China and the US. And I've been reading Kai-Fu Lee's upcoming book, which we're going to preview at our September 28th event. If anyone wants more details on that, see me afterwards. But Kai-Fu has a new book coming out, AI Superpowers, where he talks about this race between China and the US in AI. And of course, Kai-Fu is a world's leading expert on speech recognition and AI. And so what do you think? I mean, he thinks that China is rapidly catching up to the US. What do you think?
I think AI in China is already on par with the US in a lot of different areas. I think, in some areas they're playing catching up games like, chips and semiconductor, some of the traditional tech-heavy components. China's catching up. But in a lot of the areas, China's already ahead or on par with the US companies. For example, it's facial recognition, right? We have really large companies, Face++ and Shangtang, billion-dollar companies, versus in the US, facial recognition is very much, a large company, game. So most of the small players are acquired by large companies, so you don't see a large company here in the US. So I think a lot of factors contributed to this phenomenon. Number one is the availability of data in China. You just have a lot more data, a lot more people. And the notion of privacy is also a little bit different for Chinese companies. And the second one, there are a lot of great Chinese engineers, which is very technical, which are very important for developing AI solutions. and lots of large companies are waiting to be the test like rats to make it happen. So I think for sure it's a great. I'm very excited about what's happening in China and the U.S.
Right. And Alex, your view on this AI race, or do you even think it's a race between China and the U.S.?
Well, I cannot speak for the government, so I personally would look at it differently. Rather than a race, I think every country or individuals or companies, they have their own dreams and they want to do whatever, they want to pursue their own dreams. But with regard to AI, I think everybody realized that this is maybe a new technology wave that can dramatically change the way a lot of things are being done today. So, but the difference, I would rather not say it's a kind of race, but I would think the difference in the market with respect to the AI development, it's not good and bad, it's just difference, right? In China, I think something, number one, the availability of data. So that is, in China, it's a lot of public data, or even in the government or private sectors, it's a lot easier to have access to the data, which is fundamental for the training of the AI thing. But in the US, it's very high entry barrier. No matter it's the government, the private, or the individual thing. For a startup to train your algorithm to get the data, it's a very high barrier. So that's one thing maybe China can develop faster on one side. The second thing is on the application. Again, I think China is more application driven. A lot of consumer applications, consumers are more open to new things, and they don't request so high quality to begin with, and they can tolerate the reiteration of the product and development. And US is more business driven, so the AI companies are going through the business customers, and it's a really long cycle to go through that process. So if you look at the difference of the market, you can see there are different ways of development in the AI space. So, of course, the government may have their policies in supporting certain things,
right.
but I think it's a different development model.
Well, what about Baidu? I mean, they're making a huge bet on AI. I mean, you mentioned the government, but Baidu is...
Right, I think
investing here in Silicon Valley, opened 2 AI labs, opened a lab in Seattle. I mean,
right.
They're putting a lot of money into AI. Are they going to succeed?
Yeah. So I think again, if you going back to our view of the AI space, the technology building blocks versus the applications, I think China is more application driven. They do have some technologies in the building block, but on the US side, I think more companies or talents are building the building blocks in the technology.
The building blocks would be
slow.
like the R&D, the core R&D,
exactly.
And the other part would be talking about the commercialization of it, or the you say, okay.
Yeah, so you can see the talent is definitely here, and they are working on, I mentioned maybe you look at the GPU, right? There's no GPU in China, it's all here, NVIDIA, and all the edge computing chips. There are so many companies here doing that. And the cloud computing acceleration, etc., I do not see company in China doing that, but a bunch of companies doing it here. So if you look into the details of the building blocks, there are just so many companies and talents here, and then there is available in China. But from the application perspective, China is developing much faster, and companies start up, they are working, they call 996, right? From 9 in the morning to 9 o'clock 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. and 6 days a week. That's a different, I'm not saying good or bad, it's just different.
They're not doing that here in Silicon Valley? Anybody here doing that here?
Yeah, anyone
sleeping in their office? Like I just read Peter Thiel was camped out in his office.
Come to me, I'll invest if you do 996.
So, okay. Well, let's change topics a little bit. Every day in the news, there's talk about the U.S.-China trade wars and the foreign investment restrictions from China into the U.S. Critical industries like tech, which you're both involved in. So is this impacting your business in any way today, or do you expect it to impact your business in the future?
It doesn't impact us today at all. The only impact I can think of is one company we're investing. They work with almonds and grapes in California. So that's the exact target areas of the trade war. So they are worried a little bit, but at the same time, they have an Australia market. So instead of focusing more on the American market, they're now shifting a little bit more to the Australian market, which is fine. So like for the most part, it doesn't really impact us. I don't think it will have a huge impact on us, but we'll see.
Right. So are you encouraging, or what are you doing? What kind of advice are you giving your entrepreneurs who want to go to China maybe, or thinking about going to China? Should they go there now, or now's not a good time?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, now or before or after, I think unless for my entrepreneurs, unless they're so determined to go to the China market, they should not even try. They should not think about it. They should not try. Just give up. If they really want to go and think it's a market they must win, then they must invest significantly into the market. They must find someone who can run the local business. They must localize, and they must give autonomy to this person on the ground, which is not easy to do at all for American company.
Sure, yeah, that's absolutely right. And Alex, what impact do you think these restrictions or these potential restrictions or this trade tiff, trade war is having on your own business and your own companies that you're investing in their own future?
Yeah, so firstly, I don't like trade war, right? It hurts everyone. That doesn't make any sense, but that's not my call. On the FIRMA Act, I think it will have a big impact.
Does everybody know what that is?
Right. So, yeah, so FIRMA is a new, the bill, it will come out pretty soon, basically giving more kind of specific rules for CFIUS to review VC investment, especially foreign VC fund investing in U.S. technology companies. So that is coming out soon, and China definitely will be one of the countries in the list. So I think that will have a big impact, especially in, M&A is already being reviewed, but there will be more restriction. And also in late stage investment, especially if you are taking more than 10% of the company and also be on a board seat, the active investor, there will be a lot of review things and happening. So I think in the early stage investment, there will still be some impact, but maybe not as significant as in the late stage or the M&A deals. And with regard to our fund today, there's no impact, right? But we have already invested in all the best technology companies. So,
Okay, but as your companies grow up, they're going to want to exit somehow. So in the future, they may not find it so easy to get acquired if it's a Chinese acquirer. And Tencent, Baidu, Alibaba have been big acquirers in the U.S. So that's going to impact them, isn't it?
Yes, of course. It'll hurt both sides, and the companies will have a lot fewer potential buyers. That's not good for the U.S. economy, right?
Not good for the U.S. economy. It may not be good for some founders out there as well. And it's going to be interesting to see whether these new restrictions from Washington are going to impact, how much they're going to impact the venture capital business.
I think it will impact, especially the Chinese venture firms to invest here in the U.S. technology companies. I think one side is, again, the stage, right? If you're and there will be new rules coming out, but again, the companies here, they need Chinese investors. The companies are the founders, and there's also Chinese capital. It's just like the capital anywhere in the world. They want to invest in technology companies. So, So I think there will be some rules there, and there will be ways people will follow the rules and form a new practice, and still can make things work. Just give you an example. One of our portfolios is now being reviewed by CFIUS, right? They basically filed the application themselves based on the request from the investor, and the investor is actually there are Chinese investors and also Japanese investors, and the Japanese investor is requesting for the file to CFIUS. So through the process engagement, we feel actually very comfortable. The review, they are very reasonable. The core focus is on the protection of the IP rather than any political thinkings. So, and we also feel it's a very good thing. Once, as an investor, we also always want the IP of the company to be protected. And once we go through that process and form all these things we need to do or not, then the future investment from foreign investors, they will be a lot easier to go through that process again.
Sure.
So I think there will be new processes in place. I'm not too worried on that.
And what kind of technology is this company in?
They are AI. They're
they're
in
AI.
a way doing kind of a kind of AI infrastructure.
Okay.
That's all I can say. Otherwise, people will know they're kind of famous in the AI space.
Okay. So we heard Lan's view on bringing U.S. companies to China. She doesn't think it's a good idea. Because it's so hard, you have to localize. What do you think?
Well, I always have kind of you can think of the best life versus the worst life, right? We had the jokes about American wives, but the old joke. But then the best world, in my view, would be the U.S. technology and the China market, right? China, they don't have, I mean, they have some good technology, but now there's so many here. But the market development is so fast. You can see the companies, if they are doing similar things here in China, the company in China, their valuation just grow crazy. And here things happen like 3-4 years. You have to go through the 2B business, whereas China you can be on a rocket. So, but then whether it happens or not, and in what framework will it happen, it varies. And we do not encourage all the companies to go to China. We'll talk with the founders and we'll evaluate together whether the business or technology makes sense for the China market. And if that makes sense, we'll help them, or we work together in building a plan to go to China. And also, we always follow the laws.
Okay. So can each one of you talk about a company that you really think is going to hit it big in your portfolio? Just one. I know it's hard to single out one, but I'm asking you to. So the audience can get an idea of, what's coming up.
I mean, I think all my companies are going to be super big.
I knew you would say that.
So, okay, where's my investor in Linebike? They're already pretty big.
Okay.
We are an investor in Falconry. They just raised an A. It's a factory automation company. And I can give you a 10. But
Okay, so Linebike is an interesting example because that actually, the bicycle sharing phenomena started in China, or really took off in China. I think it started somewhere in Europe first, actually, but then it took off in China. So then, did you get that idea? I mean, did you get comfortable about investing in Linebike because you knew about OFO and Mobike and all those bike-sharing companies in China? And are you worried about Linebike because of what's happened to some of these bike-sharing companies?
Yeah, so the learning from this company is, from this market, is bike sharing already has product market fit in China. For anything that already has product market fit in a different market, it's easier to transfer that to a different market than starting from something from scratch. So by that logic, anything in China that has a product market fit is more investable when they come to the US, or when someone has a similar idea to build in the US. So that's kind of logic, but there are a lot of concerns. In China it's bikes, in the US it's electric scooters. That's the product market fit. You have to figure out a little bit.
Well, it does seem like Linebike has gotten off to a good start.
Yeah, that's product market fit, right? So that's what product market fit looks like. It's like a curve like this.
Okay.
Versus our other companies, it has product market fit, but initially the first year or two it goes like this, developing product R&D,
But this one
and then it
went
will
like
take
that?
off. This one just like directly because it's a
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing them all over my neighborhood now here in Silicon Valley. Okay, good. Alex?
Yeah, so just so you know, we normally don't tell the best one company because
I
all the
know.
other companies will not feel good, right? But we do have quite many companies that are all very good. I think I look at the agenda today, at least 3 of our portfolio companies are here. One is the Drive.ai, they were here this morning, and Ayla Networks, they are doing the IoT platform, one of the top 10 platforms in the world. And that's the one we help them raise funding from China and at the same time build a joint venture in China. And another company called Ours Technology, they were also here probably this morning. And they are doing RISC-V based AI chips. And RISC-V is an open, kind of open standard.
So are you studying what's happening in China innovations today in the tech space to get clues on what you should be investing in the U.S.? And how often are you in China, and how do you go about doing that research about what's happening in China?
Yeah, very closely, especially for the consumer market. For enterprise, U.S. market, it's more mature. It's been mature for a long time. But for consumer market, the business model innovation in China just happens so much faster. So I try to go every quarter or every 2 quarters ish to meet my friends, investors, etc. I'm going to see Kai-Fu in August. Again, he sent me his book last month, like PDF versions. Like he's like, don't forward. But I try to keep a very close eye on what's happening in China. I think I do learn a lot from the market. And then when I come back, I see, is there anything I see that might already have the product market fit in China.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Alex?
Sorry.
The research. How do you go about it?
Sure, yeah.
How much are you studying China innovation to
Yeah, so
figure out your US
we do
investing
keep very
strategy?
close communication. So we probably travel to China 3-4 times a year. But we do communicate with a lot of friends over there to try to understand some of the market trends over there. Again, our thinking is still the worst. I mean, the best case is that the market is developing much faster in China, and the technology is really good here in Silicon Valley. We do not have to always invest in company and ask them to go to China. We can still invest in very good companies here. They just grow, focus on the U.S. market. But if there are some opportunities that can combine the two together, then that's probably the unique space we can help and also help both the founders here and also the market over there.
Well, what's the number one thing that you think Chinese founders can learn from American-based entrepreneurs?
I think product design is fundamentally different in China and here. I think a Chinese entrepreneur, they spend a lot of time on go-to-market, selling, and getting users, etc. But in the U.S. market, designing a beautiful product and designing it well and easier to use and have really high quality, I think that's something pretty unique to the U.S. market. If you think about like Dropbox, think about some of these beautiful products just sell itself. I think that's something product managers, at least in China, probably can learn a thing or two.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
So Chinese founders here or Chinese founders in China?
Chinese founders in China.
Okay. Well, that's probably different. So how Chinese founders in China can learn from founders here in the US, right? That's a good question. I mean, one thing is maybe on the presentation side. I would say on average, just most U.S. founders, they are good in presentation skills, and sometimes the China founders are not there yet. And also, well, that's maybe one thing.
That's fine. So now, for your next fund, do you think you'll be tapping China capital at all, or not?
We'll see. See how big the fund is. It's 140 for the first fund. I think probably keep the same size for next fund. I think we're okay. Our existing LPs will be happy, hopefully.
Okay.
But we'll see.
So you're right now around 110 million or so?
140.
140 million. Okay. And both of you are investing only in the U.S., am I correct?
U.S., Canada, have one company in Europe, but mostly in the U.S. Most of our companies are actually in California. That's a function of our deal flow.
Oh, okay, I see.
Pretty much. We all invest in North America, primarily in the U.S.
Okay. Would you invest in a Chinese company?
Probably not, because we're not local in China. I think it will be hard for us to help them. It will be, there's no reason why the best company in China would get capital from us versus like Sequoia in China, right?
I see.
So,
but Sequoia does everything, right?
Sequoia does everything in China. But here we're very competitive. We're in deals with Sequoia together. We're in deals with like top tier funds because we're based in here. If I were based in China, I would definitely invest in Chinese company. But wanted to prioritize my time and prioritize my team.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, we'll do the same. We'll invest in U.S. companies. It could be Chinese founders, but it's all here. If there's an investment opportunity in China, we actually have so many partners back there. They can invest and help more in China.
So you brought up the business model innovation. What do you think where China is really ahead in business model innovation? Can you name an example of one area where China's really gone ahead and the U.S. can learn from those kinds of innovations?
Oh, so many. I think the business model innovation in China is just so amazing. Like Pinduoduo, for example, right? People think Pinduoduo is a copy of Groupon, which is just not true. Pinduoduo is the marriage between, like an entertainment company and the social company. And
well, why doesn't the U.S. have something like that?
It's a good question. I think it should. Someone wants to do a startup like Pinduoduo, and there's also Xiangwu Shuo, right? It's a completely new startup in China. Someone probably should do that here. And just so many companies in China have very different business model. Here it's very typical. You do SaaS, you're a consumer, sell directly to consumer. But I think there's a lot U.S. entrepreneurs can learn from Chinese market.
Yeah, I think one thing a lot of people have already talked about is mobile payment, right? In China, you pretty much go out anywhere without your wallet. You pay everything through your phone, right? Here, you still have to carry like 5-10 different cards and big thick wallet, and it's really inconvenient.
Sure. Yeah. Anybody out there still use cash at all? I see something that looks like it may say 1 minute over there. It may have also said the end. But anyone have a burning question before we wrap up? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, somebody there. Yeah.
So, this is a simple question. So, why does it make sense to invest these early stage companies versus invest this company already filed an IPO?
Sorry, your question is
why
why
early
it
stage
makes...
versus those companies that are ready to go IPO?
So my question is,
Yeah.
why does it make sense to invest these early stage companies versus invest these very mature, already filed IPO, the post IPO companies?
Well, you make a lot more money if it works out.
Yeah. Right. It also, I think it has something to do with the size of their funds as well. I mean, these are early stage investors.
So if I put $140 million of my money into Amazon, I don't know, less than what's the market cap? Like if I put 100, so I can own 10 to 20% of the small company I'm investing. and it can now probably own even 0.1% of a large company. That's
Okay.
how you make money.
So if you were a public market investor, who would you invest in, Alibaba or Amazon? Google or Baidu? Come on.
Why don't you take
So I'll
Okay,
invest-
hands up.
the audience?
Alibaba versus Amazon. Alibaba.
I'll invest in Alibaba and Amazon both,
Question.
and Google.
And Google, but not Baidu. She left out Baidu. All right, Alex?
Well, maybe Alibaba and Google. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else out there have a different opinion? All right, well, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.